Watauga Arts Council with your host, Cherry Johnson, serving arts in Watauga County for more than 30 years.
Hi, I'm Cherry Johnson with Watauga County Arts Council. And before I introduce my guest to you, I got to tell you about two things so that you'll kind of understand where we're coming from. One, the art space, Blue Ridge Art Space, has 4 wonderful galleries, and the first gallery that you walk into as you come into the building, we're calling our main gallery. Now, hold on to that piece of information and take on this one. The Arts Council has partnered for well over 10 years, I don't even know how many years, with Allegheny, Ashe, and Wilkes County in a project called Regional Artist Project Grants. And you might have heard about this project before. All the Arts Councils put a little bit of money into a pool, fair amount of money, and that money is matched by the state of North Carolina. And the combined pool of all of that money is then dispersed out to very special artists in our community, and we call it the Regional Artist Project Grant. And it is a merit-based grant. It is not a need-based grant. It's only the best of the best. So if you get a Regional Artist Project Grant, you're a very special artist. And I have 2 of them with me today. This is double-decker time.
Nice.
I have Tommy Lee and I have Carly Eisenberg. Excuse me, Carly. And so, Carly, you are a metal worker.
Yes.
And Tommy, what do you do?
I'm a painter and a graphic designer.
A little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you both won grants this year. Congratulations.
Thank you, and to the board for actually, taking the time to put it together, and it definitely helps a lot to have that grant.
I bet it does. Let's talk about that now. Tommy, tell me what your grant is about, and why does it help you to do this?
It helped in actually a few different ways. The idea that I had behind the grant was to help the work that I was doing move forward, the series of paintings that I was doing to move forward, and after the paintings are done, to have an art space that that I could use to exhibit those pieces, but also the much needed promotional material, the flyers, the handbills, and things like that, to get people out to the exhibit. So that's what the majority of that grant went toward.
And although these are not matching grants, I'm sure you had to put your own money into this project overall, but these grants are not considered matching grants, so they didn't have to come up with a matching amount of money and explain how they were going to do that. This is simply a gift from the Arts Councils to these artists to help them move from one level to the next in their careers. And it sounds like that's what you're kind of achieving with this.
Yeah, you have to, on both sides, yeah.
Yeah. So now, have you done your grant yet? You were awarded this money back in, October?
Yes.
And you have to finish the project by sometime in May, I believe.
Yes.
And so where are you on that process?
I'm about 61.5% done with the process of making the bodies of work and having those ready for the exhibit in May. So I feel pretty good about it, though.
That's great.
Yeah, I feel really good about it. So
that is wonderful.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I don't know if I've said that to you yet. We've had a lot of interactions, but I don't know if I've actually said that to you, but congratulations.
It's always good to hear it again, but thank you.
And Carly, now your work is completely different from Tommy's.
It is. It is in some ways, but in different ways the themes kind of run along the same vein. My grant actually went towards buying me a oxypropane torch. Blacksmithing equipment does not run cheap, and there are certain types of things you need to actually run a functional shop, and an oxypropane torch for me is one of them. So this actually got my shop really up and running, and my grant is going to go towards an Alice in Wonderland themed collection. And my first piece, which is going to be shown at the exhibition in April, is going to be the Alice in Wonderland mirror.
Yeah, so that'll be the feature piece.
That'll be the feature piece. It's quite large right now. It's about 30 by 40 inches.
Which is why we didn't bring the whole thing in.
What
does it weigh?
Right now, it's at about 35 pounds.
Oh, so it'll get much heavier.
It'll get heavier. Right now, the frame is going to be all different types of veins and flower stems that are all twisted together. There'll be thorns dripping red paint. And then as you start to go down towards the bottom, down the rabbit hole, you start to get these bright colored flowers that start to grow out with faces in them and funky swirls that come out of them, and actually these are the flowers that
Fun fantasy. Yeah.
these are the flowers that are going to be attached hopefully in the next week or so. Varying sizes, weights, styles.
I started to say these aren't lightweight. For
They
flowers, they are quite heavy.
They're quite heavy, but it just gives it a fantasy, whimsical feeling that I really love to touch on in my work.
Now, you just graduated not too long ago.
I did. I got my Master's in Fine Arts in Furniture Design at the Rhode Island School of Design.
Wow, impressive. And
Tiring.
speaking of furniture design now, one of the pieces you're going to be exhibiting in our main gallery is a piece of furniture.
Yes, my thesis collection at RISD was actually a collection called Fables of Red, which was based off the original tales of Little Red Riding Hood. And a couple of my pieces for my thesis will be in this show. I did a 5 foot in diameter, very organic red leather and steel couch. I did a steel Thone style rocking chair that it's all made out of leaf springs. It's got leather, brown leather cushions. I've got a very dark and eerie, spiky branch chandelier that'll hopefully be there if I can get a hold of it. But most of my work comes out of either fables or fairy tales.
I was going to say, I'm hearing a theme here, almost a medieval theme.
Yep.
Because you tend to like the things that people made furniture with back in the medieval times.
Exactly.
You know, and you've got the fairies and the fairy tales and the fables go back that far. You know, so you do seem to have a love for that period of history.
I do. It's definitely different. I was a woodworker before I fell in love with metal, and the difference between using a table saw and a planer and all these very, very industrial, you know, powered by energy and all these kind of tools, going back to just fire and an anvil and a hammer.
Yeah.
It's very primal.
And one thing I remember noticing and talking to you and also in reading your application was that as you graduate from school, here at a college situation, you're using their tools, their equipment, and you've got the access to a lot of variety in that equipment and a lot of very high quality equipment. And then you graduate.
And then you graduate and you have, either you go to a company that also has everything, or you have to figure out how to buy every single piece of tooling that you need, which is very difficult coming out having, you know, student debt and just starting out. Trying to get a full shop up and running can be very expensive. So that's why I was so incredibly thankful to have the grant, because it got me past that hump that I needed to finally get my shop fully set up and running.
That is great. So this truly does make a career difference.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Now, Tommy Lee, your piece is, describe your work itself, because we said paintings, but we didn't say what.
Well, okay, I'll go back to some of what Carly's work is about, and this is why I really like the dynamic of Carly and I working together. So you walk into an exhibit and you see my work, and some of it is social commentary. A lot of it is based on different icons, and it kind of ties in the different, you know, that dichotomy between our childhood and our adult self. So it's some sweet things in it, some realistic sour things in it as well. But when our work is side by side in the studios, a lot of times most people assume that her work is my work and vice versa just by looking at us.
I think that's also a gender thing. People assume the women are painting and the men are,
blacksmithing. I have no idea what I would do if I was walking in blacksmith. I'm like, hammer, hot stuff. I don't know. You know, I have dainty fingers. Okay, I have painter's fingers. I can't do anything like that with these hands. But that's one of those things that I really like about, you know, what her and I's work specifically, how we're working together. She's doing her own thing, and she's tying in the fables with this material, and I'm doing something really similar, but on the 2D front. But it blends together because it's storytelling. It has this nostalgia element to it that's really fun and youthful and funky. And so that's the vein that my work is, you know, moving into, just exploring these different a lot of them are fables, a lot of them are childhood stories or icons, and so I'll take those things because a lot of them are familiar, and in order to bring people into your world, you kind of have to be able to give them a chance to relate to what's going on. It's like I can recognize that. So they walk in and investigate, and there's an entirely different story wrapped around it. And it's not necessarily a bake. It's just something that gives people a chance to get on the same level with you, because it's really easy in the art world to want to be profound and prolific, and you go over people's heads a lot, and they can't understand it. They can't really.
And I was going to say, a lot of people think of the, especially painting, as being about the image,
Right.
not about the story.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're very clearly saying yours is really about the story. That the image is the portrayal of that, but that
Right.
you're trying to convey something. You're not just painting a pretty picture.
Right, and I mean both sides are relevant though. You have, you do have some artists who their work is primarily about the painting, the textures, the
That's true.
materials and things like that. And I'm exploring some of those things too. I feel like there's a really awesome space where they blend in the middle. You can have that aesthetics and function. You can have that really kind of abstract dimension, but also be able to tell a story. And I like
That's
that.
cool.
I like working in that space.
That's cool. And when Carly's describing fairy tales and metal in the same sentence, I'm sitting here thinking,
Right.
not many people would think of blacksmithing as storytelling. You know?
Even furniture. A lot of people just think as furniture as lines and some design. They don't really picture having a deep story behind it.
Exactly. Y'all, when you put up, they're going to have their exhibit up in the month of April, so they haven't hung it yet. So when you do this exhibit, you're going to have some explanatory phrases around so that people get into it if you're not there to talk about it.
Right.
Right.
Of course, one of the messages of art is to be able to speak for itself, but I think you got to give them a jumping off point.
For sure, for sure, you do, and I like that part of it too. What I try to do is I don't like to give way too much information in the
Right.
beginning, because all information is it's subjective to
That's true.
that person and their experience. So you maybe a title, materials, things like that.
Something
maybe a
that
short,
gives them a starter.
right?
Yeah.
Short explore and it's a place to start. But from there, it's you kind of have to let people kind of
Very
walk in your
interesting.
neighborhood and just investigate things and figure it out on their own. That's what makes it fun for people.
That's
Yep.
cool.
For me, and my fables and fairy tales work, a lot of the ways I think about portraying my work to people, I've got write-ups on each piece that explain in depth how it was made, how it ties into the stories and everything, but I think a way to really touch the audience is I'll have a piece, I'll have the title, and then I'll have a 1-sentence or 2-sentence quote from the fairy
That's good.
tale.
That's good.
So they kind of, they know where it's coming from, they recognize it, they
Right.
tie to it, and then they can feel how they want to feel about the piece.
That's really cool. That is really cool. Now, the metalsmithing in particular, all of that is very technical.
Yes.
Very technical. And I'm sitting here looking at one of these flowers is a different color from all the rest and all of that. Now, to what degree do you spend emphasis in your job, in your day-to-day? Are you thinking about the technical versus the storytelling?
It's two separate parts for me. When I'm at home and I'm in my studio, I'm thinking about the design and the tie into the story and the tie into the meaning behind the story and where it originated from. But once I get into the shop, it's all technical. I have the design in my head, but that may change 20 times trying to figure out what steps I need to make in order to get the piece I want.
Okay, because yours definitely has specific steps that you have to
Absolutely.
go through to get all these different things together.
I mean, there is the whole heating it up and just hitting it really hard. But that only
The
gets
real
you
technical
so,
stuff.
that only gets you so far.
Now, Tommy, let me ask you the same question in the context of painting now. Painting can be about, or any kind of visual design like you're doing, a 2D design,
Right.
can be a very technical process. You were just talking a while ago about how some paintings are all about the texture or all
Right.
about the shapes or the color or whatever. Where does that fit in with you in terms of storytelling and technical stuff?
it feels like it changes every single piece because there's some pieces that I would have a general sketch or an idea before I approach the canvas, and I know, okay, this character is going to go here, this line work is going to sort of bridge into it, you know, in different places, and so I approach it that way sometimes. Sometimes I just go in there and sling paint on the canvas and start making lines, and then all of a sudden
something happens.
You change, you know, you change the canvas around 90 degrees, and it's a different thing. And like, oh, I didn't see that before. And then you start to explore that. So there's so many different ways to, as she was saying, you know, heat stuff up and start banging away. You know, some of it does have a game plan, and but you know what? A lot of times the pieces for me that are the most exciting and most fun are the ones that I go into it without a
plan.
sketch, without a general sketch. You know, you always have an idea, you know, or else it's kind of intimidating to walk into. It's like a chef walking into a kitchen and not having ingredients, or you know,
or having ingredients and having to fix something.
Right.
Yeah.
Then they're just like make something.
Yeah.
You know?
Some of those cooking shows are doing that these days.
Right. I'm like, you just bridge something there, cooking and art. But yeah, it's the same. The same rules still apply, you know.
Well, and I'm also thinking about the fact that we recently have had some classes in Alcohol Inc. We're continuing to have classes in that, and it's a discovery process a lot of times. You know, like you said, that you just start making shapes and lines and whatever, and then you turn it and go, oh, look what I've got. You know,
right.
They kind of do that with the Alcohol Inc. And then it also equates in my head to when I talk to a lot of different artists with a lot of different disciplines, and writers sometimes will tell me that the story surprised them where it went. You know what I mean? It's that they started with an idea, like you said, but then the story basically takes over.
Yeah.
And starts telling its own story. You know, I have a feeling your paintings sometimes take over.
They always do. They always do. And you know, there's a difference between having a commission, you know, type of piece,
True.
and then you just have your body work that you're working on for yourself, because you have to kind of.
That's a good point.
You know, you have to stay in a certain, you know, I wouldn't necessarily call it just a box, but those parameters for a client, because this is what they like, this is what they want, this is.
They've already got a mental image of where they're going.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But
to some degree.
They do give artists that creative license to like create something for them, but still in, you know, something, whatever the vision is, and that's a totally different process also.
And do you ever explore with a client where their mind is going, what story they're trying to convey that you can then take into the canvas?
A lot of times they trust, they approach me because they like the work. They like the style that I use and the way that I would portray something. So my clients are really good about giving me creative license. They're just like, you know, do most of the time. I'm like, well, how much space do I have? Because I can get really, really wild over here. But they give me enough creative space where I can still, you know, we can bridge that between what their vision is and how I would interpret that.
Right.
And it's usually a really good fusion going on.
Do you feel like that those pieces are more successful than the ones you do on your own, or vice versa, or does it make a difference?
It doesn't make a difference as long as I got the space to do what I love to do. I'm gonna approach it with the same attention that I would approach something I do for myself.
That's interesting. Now, Carly, you said you've done wood before.
Yes.
Have you combined wood and metal?
I have a little bit. I actually, most of the wood I was doing, I worked for a couple different cabinet companies. But I would explore. One of my first pieces actually for my thesis collection at grad school was a 16th century inspired French puzzle cabinet.
Ooh.
So, kind of complicated.
Yeah.
A lot of knock-in joints, trick doors, and everything. But that had a steel lashing inlay over the entire thing. But mostly, other than that, it'll only cross when I'm doing a table and I'll have a steel base and a wood top or something like that. I'm not really set up at the moment to have a wood shop as well.
So when you eventually get all that money from all this successful work.
Exactly. Then I will have a glass shop, a wood shop, a metal shop, and I'll be good.
Well, I was getting ready to ask you about glass. She has pieces in our gift shop, and among those pieces are some lanterns, which I think you may have purchased the glass from that, or did you blow it?
No, I actually, my friend Pete Connell, who is also a local, he does the glass blowing for me.
Oh, okay.
So I'll make the cages, and he'll blow the glass for me. Actually, I dabble in glass blowing as well, and I came up with the design, but it's just so much nicer to work with another local artist, and I can just pass it off to him.
You know, I know a lot of artists that do that. Even fiber artists will use like a pin on a shawl that another artist has created. You know what I mean? And it's a collaboration, but one has purchased from the other, so then, you know, it becomes basically the artist that did the purchasing, it becomes their creation. But you have a big variety of stuff in our gift shop, major variety.
The saying I usually go to is I get bored a lot, so I jump around, but that's not really what it is. I like to explore all the different types of materials that are possible, because I can't fully develop my work until I know every single type of thing I can put into it.
And so you just check it all out and make sure it doesn't work in that piece.
Exactly.
Well, now the little things like the little, well, I think they were supposed to start out as stirrers, and then you realized that the metal would cause problems. Let's talk about those a second. Okay. They're now hair.
Yeah, they're hair sticks.
Yeah.
That was just me playing around with techniques. Sometimes it doesn't need to have any particular use. I mean, these pieces, I was just playing around with bending around a different form, getting my tapering really down, getting twists even, just fun things like that. What actually happened was they were supposed to be cocktail stirrers, but in my rushed mind, I forgot that steel reacts with alcohol and with rust and all that kind of stuff.
Rusty stirrers.
And it would not be a good thing. So they are getting produced in stainless steel now.
So now they can be in the drink.
So now they can be in the drink.
And then you've got the more very practical pieces like hooks and I think there's a toilet paper holder and a towel rack, you know, a variety of things. So the moral of that being that you can have art in every part of your life. You can have it in your bathroom. You can have it, you know, with what you wear in your hair, of course, but you can also have it in your drink. You know, you can live with art in every part of your existence, and I think that's one of our things. The Arts Council's slogan is making the arts a presence in our community, and I think that kind of fits really well with that theme, because we want to make it to where that art is just part of your existence. It's just how you breathe and sleep and eat, and you know, it's everything.
That's something that I go back and forth with, but art is not only just a part of our lives in the everyday existence. It literally is all around us. Everything from, I mean, think about this table, what's on the table, the clothes that you have on, this camera that you know that we're talking to, the microphones. All of this stuff was designed by a person, some artist, some creative mind, and they had forethought and put those things together. The car that people are driving to work in, you know, the food they eat for lunch, it's culinary art. So it's like everything around us is literally the art that somebody created, imagined, envisioned, and actually put together. But we've combined that idea and that term into such a small box and said, this is art, this is not art. They used a paintbrush, they welded this, things like that. I'm like, look around, everything that we have around us. You know, your hairstylist is an artist. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, seriously, it's literally like everything around us. That's not one thing around us that you can say, oh, somebody didn't imagine and design that.
Very well said, Tommy Lee. That's exactly what I've been thinking for many, many years. Exactly, is that art is just your existence, you know. Yeah. And I think a large part of the community doesn't think about it that way, but it is just a matter of pointing it out and saying, "Oh, look," you know, and they realize maybe that is their life. You know, they really do have it all around them. Right. So I'm sitting here looking at you with your glasses on, and someone designed those frames, you know.
Yes, and I'm thankful that they did. Because I would be Ray Charles in here if they did.
It'd be very hard to paint like that.
Oh yeah, I tried before. Didn't work out. A lot of stick figures.
I can't wait to see this exhibit. I think this is going to be one of the best.
Me too.
You know, I'm very excited
I
about
can't
this.
wait to see it.
It's an interesting thing when the artists say that. Carly, do you feel the same way, or have you got this thing figured out?
It's still coming together. I mean, I know the piece is already made, the Fables of Red pieces, but the Alice in Wonderland piece is still changing every single day. So I am just as excited as you to see what this looks like. I do not know at this point.
See, that's another case where the piece of art is actually doing the storytelling in a fashion. You know,
most of my pieces will make themselves. They want to be something, they don't want to be something else, and I just have to let it do what it wants to do.
and if you try to force it, you end up displeased with the product.
Absolutely. Or I get burned or cut or
Your pieces are vicious.
it fights back.
That's one of the things I love about what she does versus what I do. She gets all of the cuts, scrapes, and the bruises. I don't have insurance. I can't afford to get all the cuts and scrapes. So I can paint a cut on my hand, like all
Make
day.
it look really good.
Yeah, the highlights and everything. It's like, dude, what happened? Oh, hanging out with Carly
Yeah, I get hurt every day though.
every day.
Every day.
It's kind of ridiculous.
She's a tough cookie. Well, I hope that you're excited about this exhibit coming up, excited that they won grants. These are two of our best artists in the region. That's important. And then also, I hope that you will make a point of coming out in April. We will have our second Saturday celebration of the arts, at which point they will be there to talk to you about their exhibits and the various pieces and what the story finally turned out to be. And so I'm very excited to see what's going to happen with that. The Arts Council has tons and tons of wonderful people like these, and you just got to come and check it out. We are having a blast at the Blue Ridge Arts Space, and people are coming in. I've had literally 3 people this one week, and this is Thursday that we're taping this. I've had 3 people this week that have walked in and just been blown away by the Blue Ridge Arts Space. So I challenge you to become the 4th one. So let's make this a community center of the arts where we all come and we really celebrate the arts that are all around our lives. Check our website, watauga-arts.org, for information about this and so much more.
Watauga Arts Council with your host, Cherry Johnson, serving arts in Watauga County for more than 30 years.